If you're ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith, then grab your Bible and let's get started. Shalom. Welcome back to Tuesday night Torah Studies. I just wanted to jump right in because I have a lot to cover on today. So I hope you have your Bible before you, because you most definitely going to need it all the way from the review sheet all the way to the end, because here we are today in the book of Exodus, Shemot. See, we ended Genesis when the children of Israel's life was great. It was wonderful. They were blessed and they was flourishing. And now we are entering into Exodus, the same place, Egypt, but some things began happening. There's some changes began to happen. For example, a change of regime. I want you to forget every blockbuster movie that you have watched about the book of Exodus. Mainly because most of it was misleading. It's, to be fair, it was meant and designed for entertainment and not for education. You should not be getting your biblical education from a movie. But this book of Exodus, you get a better understanding of salvation, redemption, worship, and much more. Welcome to Reconcile, the kingdom where we're working towards becoming a harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson. I thank you for stopping by today on this live premiere, and those who will be joining me on the replay. You most definitely are greatly appreciated. If this is your first time visiting me, I welcome you. If this is your 50th time, your 100th time, 450th time, I welcome you. And I greatly appreciate you allow me to be before you. I'm hoping that you also here and that you're ready to join this family. This family here that does not mind searching in scriptures, a family that does not mind challenging the religious system teachings that we have been under for hundreds of years. A family that is open to becoming and committed a lifetime student of the Bible, and a family that's ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith. It is easy to join this family. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button below and the bell. Don't forget the bell, because the bell lets you know when I'm live and when there's an update or any announcement that will be coming from this ministry. And of course, that's not the only way that you can support this ministry. You can support this ministry by making comments in the description box down there, in the comment box. You can send emojis, you can see a sentence, you can send a disagreement. You can communicate with me. I am here and I respond to those comments. Share. Share the link when you are watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching during the replay. Share the link. Give me a thumbs up. Whenever you are learning something, whenever you are gaining an understanding, an insight of anything, any Bible content that I'm bringing before you, give me a thumbs up. That thumbs up is important because you also support this ministry that YouTube can send it out to more people. So the thumbs up is important. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, and of course, YouTube podcasts. Shop in a digital online shops. As you know, we are on Exodus, and Exodus workbook is in the digital online shop for you to purchase. And we also have the individual sheet. There's only 2 sheets, and it's $1.99 that's available to you. So all of this information that I'm telling you about, you can find in the description box. Now, don't forget to donate in the love jar. Thank you for sharing your finances, whether it's a dollar, whatever that Yehovah has placed on your heart. I thank you, because we all are in different states in our life. So I'm not going to complain about anything. I have nothing to complain about, because I feel like I am blessed that He has opened my eyes to His word and have called me to do what I am doing in the ministry and much more. So you guys are here for the first time. You might not know that this is just the foundation. This is the first phase of this ministry. The first phase of the ministry is teaching doctrine foundation. This in the Bible. Nothing added, no tradition added. It's so much of that around this world. It's enough of that. And it's time to learn the word as it is written. So, again, you can find all this information that we just talked about, a way of supporting the ministry, in the description box. Take a look at that after the live premiere. And of course, you can take a look at that um, doing the replay. It is most definitely available to you. Don't forget, at the end of today's teaching, you have an opportunity to ask questions about the teaching that is presented to you today. I encourage that. I encourage you commenting. I encourage you sharing throughout the teaching. I will address any question that's presented to me at the end of the teaching. And doing the replay, if you want to send a question, I address those questions too. So I need you to make sure that you have your Bible in front of you. All the writing utensils that you need, your workbook or your sheet or a piece of paper. You're going to need all that to get things written down so you won't forget anything. And of course, take notes, put your little stars and things on there that you need to do for notes. I'm most definitely a person who does that. So I'm going to share my sheets with you because we always go through the previous week, um, understanding the teachings that we did, which was the introduction to Exodus. So I'm going to share my sheets for the introduction of Exodus. So we have two sheets up here because I kind of discussed a little bit about the five W's. And of course, I didn't go into too much because we already have an introduction of the all the book of Moses and the title of What is Torah. So you can go through those and get all the introduction of all of the book of Moses. And of course, we are going to go through this in detail because this is important. The five W's. Who is the author of this book? Moses. So many people ask, they question, theologians are questioning today who wrote the book. But there are plenty of scriptures in Exodus, in the Bible, that tells you who is the author of the book. I want to take a look at Exodus chapter 34:27. I have my Bible before me, and I'm just going to read this. Then Yehovah said to Moses, write down these words, for in accordance to these words, I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with Yehovah 40 days and 40 nights, and he did not eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote on the tablets the word of the covenant, the 10 commandments. And I'm reading from out of the New American Standard Bible. So we have a scripture that says that Moses wrote things down. And that, like I said, there's many more there that you can research on your own. And then we have to answer the question, to whom is this book written? This book is written to all believers. And guess what? In the scriptures, there is a verse for that. So we're gonna find that in Deuteronomy. So remember, Deuteronomy is Moses getting the people prepared to go cross over the Jordan River to the promised land. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 31, and we're gonna read verse 9 through 11. So 9 is saying who he is speaking to for the specific instruction. So listen to what Moses is saying. So Moses wrote this law and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the covenant of Yehovah, and to all the elders of Israel. Then Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, at the time of year of remission of debts, at the feast of booths, feast of tabernacle, when all of Israel comes to appear before Jehovah your Elohim at the place which he will choose, you shall read this law in front of all of Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people the men and the women and the children and the alien who is in your town, in order that they may hear and learn and fear Jehovah your Elohim and be careful to observe all the words of the law. And their children who have not known will hear and learn to fear Yehovah Elohim as long as you live on the land which you are about to cross to Jordan to possess. So again, this is to all believers. This is not meant just for the children of Israel. We clearly heard the alien and those who live among you. Again, that's from the New American Standard Bible. So when was this book written? 1446 BC. Why was this book written? One, we show the nature of Jehovah, the plan of redemption, which we know began before the foundation of the world. And then we have the beginning of learning about the Constitution of Israel, how you're supposed to live in his kingdom. So, of course, you're going to have to take um, all the books of Moses together and show it beautifully, his Constitution. But we're not there yet. But this is the beginning. This is him calling out his people. What division of the book is listed? Now, for those again in the Hebrew roots, Messianic Israelites, or if some that may call themselves, this is the book of Moses, the Torah. For those of the Protestant Bible that you have, those are denomination, non-denominational religious systems, it is listed as the Pentateuch. So let's jump over here to the key points. The key point is one, Exodus is just a title. It's not located in any of the books of the Bible, so you cannot do a word study for Exodus itself within the Bible. But the title is rooted in the Greek Septuagint, meaning exit or departure. And then if you look up Shemot, that comes from verse 1, part of verse 1 in Exodus, the names of, these are the names of, now these are the names of. When we, of course, we know that it's found other places of the Bible. And then we see Jehovah's glory, his chosen nation, his called out ones, his congregation, the assembly, the church. We see this right here in the book of Exodus. Then we have the two blood covenants come together. We have the covenant that was made with Abraham, the circumcision, and then we have the covenant of the teachings and instructions of the law. The law is a blood covenant. So I know we went over this back in Genesis, but in Exodus chapter 34, I wrote this down for myself. In verse 27, it's chapter 34, verse 27. I'm going to read this because many people don't understand that the Torah is a blood covenant. And I'm sorry, this verse chapter 24 of Exodus. It's a blood covenant. And so they don't understand that. So, and that's hard for them to understand why the Father sent the Son to teach us on how to follow that blood covenant. Once again, that's chapter 24. We're going to read verses 7 and 8 to understand that the Torah is a blood covenant. Then he took the book. This is Moses. Matter of fact, we're going to go further up. We're going to go. Let's go to verse 5. No, let's go to 4. And Moses wrote down all the words of Yehovah. Then he rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain with 12 pillars of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the sons of Israel, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls of peace offerings to Yehovah. And Moses took half the blood and put it in a basin, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people. And they said, all that Jehovah has spoken, we will do, and we will be obedient. So Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. And he said, behold, the blood of the covenant which Jehovah has made with you in accordance with all these words. So the Torah is a blood covenant. We also talked about presenting the bride of Yehovah as the children of Israel. The house of Israel is the bride of Yehovah. So we have to make sure this goes inside my insight. We have to ensure we're able to recognize the different roles of Israel and Jehovah as we continue to study the word of Jehovah, because this alone will help you understand the rest of the scriptures. And so many people get this area mixed up and confused. So we have a word study. We had no word study, I'm sorry, all of our cross reference, and I had no questions. So, from the introduction. Now, I'm going to keep this up for a moment to encourage you to share what you have gotten out of the introduction we did last week, or anything that you have to say about what we just went over. Again, I'm going to keep this up for a while. Now, we're on Exodus chapter 1. We have to make sure, if we have to connect any other writings, any other letters, any other books to help us to understand Exodus chapter 1 in its context. Afterwards, on your own, you most definitely should be using your tools, your Strongs, your Bible dictionary, whatever map or app that you have, you should be using it as you continue to study. As we are on this journey, if you remember in the introduction, we went over the bride in Ezekiel chapter 16. And I want you to keep this parable of the bride in mind. It was Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 4 through 14. You keep this in mind because I want you to think about the bride getting prepared to meet the groom, Yehovah. So it's important to see it in its working. So keep that in mind as we are going through the book of Exodus. All righty, Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel was fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. The first 5 verses that we just read in Exodus 1, to me, is a summary from Genesis 46, 7 through 27. So this is when it is going through the listing of the children of Israel from his loins, all the blood brothers. Now, these are the sons born from the loins of Israel, but we must not forget the 2 adopted sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. You cannot just count in the 12 sons. You're going to have to remember and understand throughout your reading, all the way through Revelation, you cannot forget Ephraim and Manasseh. So there's 14 children. 14 children. The names are important. So one reason I should point out, I'm pretty sure we spoke about this before, remember the name, because when you get into Revelation, especially Revelation chapter 7, verses 4 through 8, there is one of the tribes that is missing. We don't have an answer why it's missing, but it's not there. It's not written in there. And maybe Jehovah will make that revelation of why it's missing. We could come up with all type of reasons, because I know one of the reasons they say because Dan created this whole priesthood and with Moses' grandson and his bloodline, and they weren't the only ones who was committing adultery. So I'm just want to bring that to your attention. We have all of Joseph and his brethren in these verses 1 through 7. We conclude that all the brothers in that generation is no longer living. They have passed on. So now we have the sons and sons. They're still around this point. It's most definitely have multiplied, and it is happening at a fast rate. So fast that they are mighty. If you look up the word mighty, because people will think of that word as strong, but if you look it up in Strong's H6105, in this particular verse, it will say numerous. So that verse number 7, and he waxed exceedingly and mighty. People think of again mighty as strong, but that means numerous. Remember, the nation is being developed and developing while they're in Egypt, just as Yehovah has spoke to Israel. Genesis 46, 1 through 3. And that night, Elohim spoke to Israel in a vision. Jacob, Jacob, Israel, Israel. He said, Here I am, replied Israel. I am Elohim, he said, the Elohim of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. So the nation wasn't going to develop in the promised land. The nation is developing in Egypt, just like he said to Abraham that these his children, although he didn't say Egypt, that his descendants will be in a land that's not theirs. So what we have, if you can remember this all the way to Genesis, we have Adam and Eve being fruitful and multiply, right? Then we get to Noah. Then he speak to Noah's family, his sons, to be fruitful and multiply. Now we having a fruitful and multiplication again among the nation that is developing to be a light to the nations. We can't forget they are going to be the first chosen nation to graft in the other nations. Verse 8. Now there rose up a new king in Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people, the children of Israel, are more and mightier. Then we remember what that word mightier means, numerous. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and come to pass that when there followed out any war, they join also into our enemies and fight against us. So get them up out of the land. It has been between verse 7 and 8, it's been hundreds of years. If you can remember, Joseph was in Egypt for about 90 to 93 years because he died around age 110. He went to Egypt when he was 17 years old. So it's been hundreds of years from the new king rising up. Now, this new king that's rising up don't care anything about who and what Joseph had done for Egypt. This new king cared nothing about all the land, how he saved so many people from dying, how he actually the land of Egypt grew because of that. All he see is this population, his population reducing, and the children of Israel surpassing them. Instead of coming to some treaty or communication or some type of agreement, he reacts from fear. Fear that someone would come and attack Egypt and that the children of Israel would join in with their enemies. I didn't understand that because clearly, if someone's going to attack Egypt, the children of Israel, who's been living there for hundreds of years, you would think will stand for Egypt, will stand up for Egypt because they have invested their livelihoods there. Also, I think there's a little hint of this love and hate relationship because he's also saying that they would join their enemies and fight against us, and then they will leave the land. They might leave. So he has some issues. I can honestly say he's a little confused. And I know what some people do in this area, in this part of Exodus, they put race in this area. I truly believe this is nothing about race. Truly believe this is about class. It's still discrimination, but it's about class and not race. So we had a time when Joseph, they wouldn't eat with the Hebrews because they were shepherds. And this is hundreds of years before this king came. And we have this king continue carrying this discrimination against the Hebrews. Remember, again, we seen this when Joseph came. And we can't forget that the Egyptians are from the bloodline of Ham, and the children of Israel is from the bloodline of Shem. Shem and Ham were brothers. I'm going to leave you to fill that information out yourself. So, what we see or what we're reading is an example of the majority becoming the minority. Now, this shift causes fear for the ones that are no the ones that were majority because they react out of fear instead of working with the people that are among them. They get fearful because they don't see their population growing anymore. The other minority population is growing and suppressing them. So if they growing, but we still the same. How do we communicate as human beings, looking past this all this discrimination that we have in this world? So whether it's class, whether it's race, discrimination is it can be an ugly thing. You might not agree with everybody and what they say and what they do and things like that, but I always say there's a respectful way, and some people think you hate them because you don't agree with them. And that to me is an extreme. Verse number 11. Let me take down this sheet. Therefore, they did set over their taskmaster to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Phanom, and Ramsey. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter and hard, bondage and mortar and in brick, and all the men of service in the field. All their service within they made them services was with rigor. We have forced labor. They forced them into labor to build cities. Now, Ramses and Phanom, which is the cities they was building, was where they were located because Goshen was in that area. But the strangest thing happened while they was forcing this labor upon the children of Israel. They were growing, and they continue to grow. They continue to grow in spite of the mistreatment, the forced labor that the children of Egypt put upon them. It's kind of like an envious thing. Wrath is cruel and anger is like the flood, but who can withstand jealousy? Proverbs 27:4. It seemed like that what was going on. So the children of Israel did not come to Egypt to be slaves. They first came to escape the famine. These were comfortable. I mean, really comfortable, and so comfortable that they even forgot about the inherited land, the promised land. They did not go back there. The only time they went back there is to bury Israel. The Egyptians made the children of Israel lives extremely difficult. Oppression, bondage, and cruelty. Now, all that comes from forced slavery. Don't ever let anyone tell you that forced labor is anything but cruel and inhumane. So many people describes the children of Israel not living so bad. I don't understand people who don't understand the forced labor. You being forced, that's oppression. That is bad. I don't get it. But you got so many people who don't understand what forced labor means. Verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphr, and the name of the other was Pua. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men of children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and he said to them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? The king of Egypt was beside himself. He did not know what to do because no matter what he did, no weapon prospered against the children of Israel. So when he went for the children, he didn't think about things, because you would think without the Hebrew men, there would be no births. If there's no births, there will be no labor. But he called the midwives, though. He called them in. He gave them an order for them to ensure that every male child, the Hebrew child, shall die. However, Elohim is still on the throne, and the midwives understood that and did not follow that order. They understood that Yehovah was still on the throne. They chose not to follow such an outrageous, horrendous, cruel act against a child. Let's continue. Now, if you are learning something, if you're getting something out of the teaching on today, give me a thumbs up. Send me a comment. Send me an emoji on a happy face, maybe. We are now verse 19. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and they deliver the midwives come in into them. So therefore Elohim dwelt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. Again, that mighty again, that's numerous. And it came to pass before the midwives feared Elohim that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, every son that is born you shall cast to the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. The midwives had an answer, and they had to answer for their stance, because they were not killing the children, the male children of the Hebrews. They stated the Hebrews give birth fast births. And I'm sure this happens. This happened. It probably happened plenty of times. I know there has been people that I know that have a quick birth. Not everyone is in labor for hours. Not everyone takes a long time to push those baby out. Because they respected Jehovah, the midwives' household was blessed. Were they telling the truth? Whether the Hebrew women were having the babies quickly? And they might have a majority of the time. That's probably why they said that. No matter what, their household was blessed because they did not follow the government, the ruling government's rule of killing those children. Things still weren't going the way the king wanted, the king of Egypt, the way he wanted. So he called the people, his own people, who also had an issue with the children of Israel because they did not respect Joseph at times. If you went through Genesis with me, we kind of pointed that out. He told his people of Egypt to kill the male child of a Hebrew and throw them in the river. He still wasn't thinking clearly. This was not well thought out. You can tell wasn't well thought out. He is moving and he's moving off of fear. Killing the males again will cut his labor because according to a lot of the commentaries that I read, the children of Israel was probably in slavery about over 200 years. So if you want to have this forced labor and you start to killing all the males, you're not gonna have all that forced labor. And then you want to throw them in the river. Now I thought the river supplies the water. Maybe I'm just assuming it was supplying the water. Now I'm hoping that what we just read, just these, just what, let me see, how many verses? 15 all the way to 22 reminds you of something. This should sound familiar to you. This should sound very familiar to you because it's the death of a male child. Of course, this was the same action, the same step, the same process that King Herod took in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament when it came to the Messiah. Matthew 2 and 16. When Herod saw that he has been outwitted by the Magi, he was filled with rage. Sending orders, he put to death all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, according to the time he had learned from the Magi. The enemy tried to prevent the children of Israel growth and eventually prevent the birth of Moses, just as he tried to prevent the birth of the Messiah. We wanted the Messiah killed. He doesn't care. The enemy doesn't care who you are, doesn't care at all. Now, I'm all done for today. And I'm hoping that you are most definitely learning something. And those of you who's joining me on Saturday with the book of Ruth, do you see the connection with Ruth in Exodus? Again, it is about redemption. They both are learning and learning and well teaching, I should say, about redemption. So on Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m., we will be in we didn't even finish chapter 1. We will be in chapter 1, part 2 of the book of Ruth. And then next Tuesday, we'll be in chapter 2 of Exodus. All of this is important for you to learn and understand. So I appreciate you studying with me and that we learn from each other. So if you send information to me in the comment box of what you're learning and something that I may have missed, oh, I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I have no problem from learning from other people because we are a community. We are a family that learn from one another. As always, man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yehovah. I pray that you have a blessed rest of the week, and I will see you on Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. May Yehovah bless you. Thank you.